Welcome to MidLIFE Matters, where we celebrate women's wisdom and wit. I'm Georgian Lussier, your host, and I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, Tia Murphy. Tia has an executive background in sales and marketing and is now offering workshops through AARP to help people avoid becoming victims of fraud. So welcome, Tia.
Welcome to you. Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity to tell people a little bit more about our FraudWatch network.
Well, it's an exciting enterprise that you folks have, and I'm interested in learning even more about it. And I know you've had some personal experiences with fraud, so let's start with that.
Yeah, about 12 years ago, my husband died very unexpectedly. I started getting phone calls from creditors about 6 months after that, telling me that they wanted to speak with him, and because he had been running up these bills and wasn't paying them. And I explained to them that he was dead. Now, my husband unfortunately had committed suicide, so in order to get this rectified, I had to send a copy of the death certificate, the police report, his suicide note, and I had to validate that I was not the person who had perpetrated this fraud. It turned out that what was happening was that people could very inexpensively get copies of death certificates in the state of Texas. We were living in Austin, Texas at the time. For about $2, you could get a death certificate that had somebody's birth date, death date, where they were born, their social security number, their mother's maiden name. Does this sound like anything to you? So what was happening was there was an enormous amount of fraud that was coming out of Texas. And luckily for us, we figured out what it was, got the law changed so that now you have to have a reason, and for getting a death certificate they raised the price of it, and they redacted information if you didn't need it for a specific purpose. So you can get the vital statistics, the basic information, but stuff that you don't need, you don't get. And that was a great lesson. I mean, there was almost $50,000 worth of fraud, and they were coming out after me, so you can imagine how challenging that was. So when this opportunity came up with AARP, they said, has anyone had any experience with fraud? And I said, yeah, I did. It was a good fit for me to be able to speak about not just our network, but speak about it from a perspective of having been somebody who's been through it.
That's a fascinating story, and it's very impressive that you were able to be involved in getting the law changed as well. I mean, things happen to us and we can feel so victimized, and then to be able to go and actually be an agent of change.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, good things happen in very bad places. And that was, yeah, we were very, very fortunate. My lawyer, who was helping me with the estate, happened to know how to do the ins and outs of this, and once we figured out how it had happened, he was very instrumental in the both of us getting this changed. So, yeah, that was a good thing. But unfortunately, every day people get scammed by, you know, not just that kind of thing, which was sort of incidental and third party, but people get phone calls from people who are trying to defraud them. They're getting emails that people believe whatever it is, the opportunity that's coming to them. And every 2 seconds in America, somebody gets defrauded. So somebody's out there trying to take your hard-earned money away from you. So that's what we're trying to do, is really educate the population about these different scams and how to avoid them, and how to, as you were saying, take your control back to yourself. Be in charge of yourself so you don't get pulled in by these kinds of scams.
And I know they provide, or you folks provide, alerts and tips, workshops. I happen to be on the FraudWatch network on Facebook, so that's one way when I talk about an alert that's very helpful. And so what are these workshop presentations that you're involved with usually include?
We've got a 45-minute presentation. It's mostly PowerPoint. It's got some embedded videos. One of the things AARP did was they got video jailhouse confessions from these guys who had been running some of these really, really big scams to find out what were they doing, how were they able to press these buttons. And one of the interesting things that comes out of this presentation from the guy who I call the king of the cons, Jimmy, is that they want to get you under the ether.
Mhm.
And if you remember ether from your
I
childhood,
saw that
Yes.
in one of the booklets.
yes, under the ether. Well, if you think about that, what is it? You know, put it on your mouth and you become unconscious. Well, what they're trying to do is drive you into an emotional state where you're not thinking clearly, you're not thinking logically, you're thinking with your heart and with your emotions. And they never want the patter to stop. They keep asking you questions. They find out more things about you, your family, your work situation. So they're really predators, and they're finding out and feeding back information to you that will keep you in this emotional state, and as they'll step you through how they're going to extract this money from you and how they're going to defraud you. And the next thing you know, you've given them your social security number, your date of birth, you've given them a credit card number, you've done all sorts of things that you would never, ever do to somebody, with somebody that you don't know. But these guys are really, really smart in how they can extract this money from you. If you remember, there was a woman by the name of Monica Lewinsky who was famous for many
Monica,
things.
yes.
And one of the things that she was famous for was a quote that she said she used to say to her parents, which was, "You are not the boss of me." I think that's a really great quote for us. Our Monica mantra is, "You are not the boss of me, I am the boss of me." When you get into these kinds of situations, stop for a second, take a breath. Before, if you start to feel your heart racing, you start to feel yourself thinking about, oh, what am I going to do with this money that I'm going to get, or what if these people really are going to ruin my credit, or whatever the scam is. Stop for a second, take a breath, and just remember that, you know, you are not the boss of me. I'm in control. Take control of the situation. Figure out how you get off the phone. Figure out how you get out of this email situation that you're in. Take control back. Don't let yourself be victimized. And that's one of the big things. We are not the experts in this field. There's a lot of experts out there. And what we've done is been sort of a clearinghouse to bring all of that information together. And we send out, as you were saying, these regular alerts. You can sign up for them. It's free of charge. Anyone of any age, this is not just for our 50-plus population. Anyone can be defrauded. It's a free service. You can sign up for these fraud alerts. You are not going to be inundated with tons of emails. But as a new scam comes out, you will find out about it. There was one that just happened here in Connecticut with electricity. They were calling businesses and saying, you haven't paid $600, whatever, $1,000 on your electric bill. I'm going to shut you down in 2 hours if you don't pay. So go down to your Walgreens or your CVS, get a green dot card for that amount of money. Call me back at this number, give me that information, and I'll keep your electricity on. It's a total scam. Total scam, but people were falling for it over and over again.
I mean, what if it is
those targets?
true?
What if it is
yeah,
true? And
right.
here I am, I'm a restaurant. I can't afford to have my electricity shut down. I'll lose my customers, so on and so forth. So they knew exactly what buttons to push and how to get people to do it. Ebola is another thing. Believe it or not, people are already starting with Ebola scams about buy this product and this will protect you. If you get this particular handbook, it'll tell you how to prevent yourself from ever getting affected by Ebola. Here's some medicine that you can take that'll purify your body and you'll never get Ebola. Unbelievable. And people are falling for it on a regular basis. And when you hear them, you think, that just doesn't sound right, you know. But we're thinking about it logically. When you're in the heat of the moment, it's very easy to get taken in by this. And like I said, these guys are really, really smart about figuring out psychologically how to keep you engaged, how to keep you under the ether so you're just responding to what they want you to respond to.
And not working from the logic.
Not working for the logic
that
side
works
of your
for
brain.
You.
Yeah.
And is it largely men?
I think for a while it was mostly men who were doing it, but now you're finding it's both male and female. And one of the other new ones that's been going around is a scam where you'll get a call from somebody saying that they're with a credit agency and that you haven't paid. Let's say you had a car that you turned in and you haven't made your last payment. So yeah, you turned your car in, but we're going to ruin your credit if you don't pay us this last payment of whatever. And oh, by the way, prove that you've paid all of these. So get me a canceled check with your signature, your bank information on it. Tell me your date of birth again. so on and so forth. You get the
Yeah.
picture. And it's these, a lot of them are women calling from these credit, so-called credit bureaus.
Right.
Trying to get the money from people. So, yeah, it's an equal opportunity thing. And a lot of times, one of the things people will say is, well, you know, I signed up for the do not call list. Well, a lot of these companies are offshore. You know, try and find them. Try and find them. It's a problem. So what we recommend for people is figure out what would be your good extraction speech. One of the things we tell people is, you know what, tell them, send me something in the mail. If that's really true that you think I didn't make that last payment, can you send me the information that shows all the rest of that? And when they ask you for your address, you just say, well, you know, you have my
You've got
telephone
that.
number. I'm sure you have that.
Right.
And just get off the phone. The other thing is you have a wonderful screening tool, voicemail, caller ID, your answering machine. Let it just go to that. If you don't know who is calling you, don't pick up the phone. That way you can avoid it. The IRS will never send you an email. They will never call you on the phone, no matter what people are saying. Social Security, same thing. They're not going to do that. That's not how they operate. So a lot of people get afraid, you know, they get the IRS call around tax time or right after tax time. Oh, by the way, you know, you submitted your tax, but there's a problem. And the IRS doesn't operate that way. They just don't. Be prepared, figure out how you get off the phone as quickly as you can, and don't commit to anything. You're the one who they've contacted. Own it. Own that time. And like I said, be the boss of yourself, and you know, put the ball back in their court and tell them, you know, prove it to me what it is that you're looking for.
That's very helpful. What is the best way for people to find out when and where these workshops are offered?
We are at a lot of senior centers right now. We've been at a couple of Jewish community centers. Libraries are a common place. So watch in your
Like your senior
bulletins,
Yeah.
watch in your local newspaper for things. You can also go on to our website and you can see where the different presentations are going to be.
Great.
If people are interested and they have an organization wants to have us come and make a presentation, they can call our Hartford office. They'll make some arrangements, have us come out and make the presentations.
So let's shift to talk about Tia a little bit here.
All right.
And you are a self-described corporate gypsy.
I am.
I love that. So what types of jobs have you had and locations? And
You know, I grew up in North Bergen County, New Jersey, and my dad got transferred out to Chicago, and that's what got started right after I graduated from high school. So I got my education out there and worked in Chicago for a while. I've worked in TV information, I've worked in the cable industry, I've worked in the wireless industry, telephone, internet, inter-exchange carriers for long distance. So I've been in a lot of that telecommunications area. But I moved from Chicago to northeastern Pennsylvania, from there down to out to Denver, Colorado, Nashville, Tennessee, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Austin, Texas, Des Moines, Iowa, and now I live in Bethel, Connecticut. Phew.
wow.
It's a lot of places, but mostly what I was in was sales and marketing. I was in my last couple of positions was as a vice president of sales and marketing. So really focusing on selling the various products and marketing to homes in multiple state areas.
And you're now exploring some new career opportunities.
I'm a recovering corporate gypsy, and I'm trying to find something for which kind of fits well with my lifestyle right now. You know, as I told somebody the other day, it's that 24/7 life. I've been there, done it. I don't have anything to prove with that. What I'm really looking for right now is an opportunity to get myself gently to the last part of my life. I figure I've got another 20-25 years, and you know, I have a lot of interests. AARP is very engaging for me in a lot of volunteer kinds of things, so I'm really looking for an opportunity that either allows me to pursue that passion and those kinds of interests in helping people and being able to age in place and have a protected life, or else just have a small job and just earn enough to keep me, you know, birding and having fun.
Wonderful. And how do you find the climate in terms of, as I would call us, wise working women?
Ooh, you know, we may be wise, but it's very hard to find a job. I think, despite what everybody says about there is no age discrimination, I think there definitely is. And even if they're just looking at your resume, by the time that you've been working, the amount of years, they can pretty much judge where you are in your lifespan. And I think right now, you know, there are so many people that are out looking for jobs. They can be, employers can be incredibly specific about what they're looking for. So if you don't match a profile for what they're looking for on every criteria, you're not really going to get there. And so I think it's a challenge, and it's unfortunate because really we do have a lot of experience. We've done a lot of different things, and for somebody like myself, I don't need the big job. And I would be a wonderful asset for an organization because of that. I can mentor. I can do a lot of different things, and I have nothing really. I say I have nothing to prove other than I'm a good worker. But I don't personally. I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my skin, and but I have a lot of experience in doing many different things. So, from an employer's perspective, that's the kind of worker that you're looking for, because you've got somebody then who you can aim at something, and you know you're going to get a good work product out of it. But the search continues.
Well, one of the benefits some people who write about this identify with older workers, very experienced people, is that we have emotional regularity. So
it's a great
we don't have the drama.
That's a great term.
And we tend to look on the sunny side of the street a little bit more as we age, so there's that propensity to be optimistic, which you might think is contrary to how some people might think is contrary to an aging process, but that's not what studies and my own experience says.
Nor mine. I mean, here I am in this situation, yet I have to tell you I'm some of the happiest I've ever been, and the most contented in a way. I think one of the things is we don't have the same kinds of stressors in our lives in terms of where we are in building a career and building a life. We've done that. You know, we've been through the ups and downs. We know that as high as you can go equally as low. So you kind of, like you're saying, that emotional regularity, really take things as they come to us and work our way through it, and we understand, as bad as it is right this moment, it's going to be good again. And so I think that's where that optimism comes from, and that's a wonderful asset, and that's a really wonderful thing to have around younger folks who are trying to learn some of those things, and we don't have a lot of that in our society these days. You know, where, you know, in the past you'd have a lot of different cohorts of people experiencing each other. These days you really don't, with the way everybody runs around and takes care of their kids and has their lives. They're very, very busy. You're not really experiencing that broad range of different ages and experiences, and even in families you're not, because we're all so dispersed. I think when you have that in the workplace, that's a real asset to an organization, to be able to have somebody who you can rely on, who maybe they haven't been working there for a long time, but they have a lot of stability.
And have lived in about 10 places.
Yes, that's very true. So you know what it's like to step into something totally new, totally different, very different environment, very different culture than what you've been in before, and you can adapt to it. You know how to do that, and you know how to listen, and you know how to begin to modify your behavior to match the environment that you're in. And you can do it without feeling that you're sacrificing something for yourself, because again, you're comfortable in your skin and who you are. That's a big difference, than folks who are coming through time.
And you've talked about being able to mentor other people. Have there been people in your career that mentored you?
You know, I've been very, very fortunate. I've had some fabulous mentors. One of them was when I took a job with Bell South. This was interesting. I went into an interview, and my husband was waiting out in the car for me. And after the first hour, my husband was starting to get nervous because usually interviews don't go quite that long. After the second hour, he was really getting worried. After the third hour, the gentleman who was interviewing me said, is your husband outside? I'm like, yes, and I need to use the restroom. So he's like, well, you use the restroom, I'll go talk to your husband. It was a 5.5-hour interview. And it was one of the, you cannot talk about, I mean, he was a Southern naval officer. The two of us could not be more different people, and he was one of the best mentors I've ever had. Really took us both under his wing and helped us to understand the culture that we were now in, because we were in the South and had never lived there, and it was a very, very different place than what we grew up with. But he also taught us a lot about how to assimilate yourself in life. And he was a couple of years older than, again, you know, he had some of that stability. There were a lot of things he didn't have to worry about, so he could be giving back and helping. I've had other mentors at different times in my career as well as personally, having some people who have been wonderful. And I have to say, if one of the things that I look for more than anything is the wisdom of my women friends. You know, I not to take anything away from my guy friends, they're wonderful too, but my women friends, you know, it's such a different situation because you can really be with them and you're not really looking for a solution to something. What you're looking for is you just want to vent. You just want to step yourself through something. You just want to get something out. And it's that community is just such a wonderful opportunity to be able to help us all get through the things, the ups and downs of daily life.
I firmly believe that women's friendships are one of our either secret weapons or, you know, greatest gifts to each other as we encounter different challenges as we age. That men have their friends, but I think women are lucky in that conditions are such that it's easy for us to establish a connection and be open and reveal things and chat and support one another. And support one another. And it's not like you're looking for someone to be on your side, per se. You're really looking to get something out in the open and just get yourself through it. And it's always fascinating to me. After I had become a widow, we had done these widow walk and talk things. That was when the little light bulb went on for me, because it was the first time, you know, I had stepped out of my career at that time to take a year off to sort of grieve my husband. And during that time, that was when the light went on for me about how wonderful these relationships were and what the value of that was. It was one of the first times I was really had to stop, had to listen, had to deal with things. And that women's support was just absolutely incredible. Could not have gotten through it without it. Thank you for sharing that. And you're the chair of your local library. I am. You mentioned that you also had roles where you were responsible for programming. And so I've been very happy as a big reader to learn that libraries are alive and well and very vibrant. Oh, yes, very much. Anything you want to share in terms of how your experience with communications, telecommunications, programming helps you as a library chair, perhaps? Yeah, you know, it's interesting. We're going through a process right now. I'm the chair of the Bethel Public Library, and we're going through a long-term planning process right now, which has been really fascinating, having these different focus groups. And one of the things that comes up is that they want more and they want better. And we just finished renovating a portion of our building, and it's just now been open for a little over a year.
we had never been able to do a lot of AV type things, showing movies and having presentations and those kinds of things, because we just didn't have the space. We now have the space, we have the technology. That's been a wonderful thing. And last night we had a Doctor Who party for all the kids, you know. So we've been able to do many different kinds of things, and really libraries have become sort of the cultural gathering spot. They really have. We also have a technology center where it's we have a smart board. All the computers are connected, and we're using that to help local businesses train people on software, give different presentations. It's open to any organization who wants to come in and do it. So I really think libraries are very, very vibrant, and you know, they're evolving. People say, well, nobody wants a paper book. Well, you'd be surprised at how much circulation there is in paper books, but we're also seeing our e-books increasing more and more, and our lending of different AV products, you know, audiobooks and DVDs, movies, documentaries, all kinds of media has just been phenomenal. So, you know, and when we had all of that bad storm, where did everybody go to use the Wi-Fi? And we had our electricity. Everybody was in the library, and it was the most amazing thing to see. A lot of people hadn't been there in years.
That's neat.
Yeah, and so they were like, oh my gosh, look at this. So that was our silver lining out of a very bad thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
And building on the idea of silver linings, let's look at aging as a silver lining.
Okay.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I would just say, be a little more patient. Don't rush through things quite as much as you did. Don't push so hard to get to the next thing. Be a little more gentle with yourself. Take a little more time. Listen better. Really, really listen and be aware of what's around you. And I think the other thing is, you know, keep in touch more with people. It's very, when you move around a lot, I mean, I have friends across the country, but it's also easy to get disconnected from people. But I think really the patience thing is the most important. Things will come. They really will. And I think when you're young, you are impatient. But, you know, that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we're going to wrap up. Our time has really been so fruitful here.
Oh, my goodness.
I'd like to close with a quote that you've endorsed. And this is by Mary Daly. And she said, "You become courageous by doing courageous acts. Courage is a habit."
You know, and that is so true. Courage has many different aspects to it, and it's not just running out on the battlefront to save somebody. Sometimes it's just working with children, helping people to get through those daily things, and being able to stand up and just do things and be true to yourself and what you do. I think being courageous, half of it is just, you know, showing up and really focusing your attention on not just yourself, but on those around you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tia. This has been terrific. And tune in for other fascinating women in future segments of MidLife Matters. Georgian Lussier, thank you very much.